What is ecofeminism? Dictionary.com defines it as a philosophical and political movement that combines ecological concerns with feminist ones, regarding both as resulting from male domination of society. But what does this mean, and what does it mean for us? When we study intersectional feminism, we study how the different intersections of identity affect people's place and privilege in society and the systems that keep these power imbalances in place. When we study ecofeminism, we expand these ideas to include the environment and nature as intersections used to study injustice. The study of ecofeminism ranges from scientific to spiritual and everything in between. On the scientific end of the study of ecofeminism, we learn how we can create sustainable environmental policies, food systems, water systems, and break down gender and racial boundaries. We look at statistics on how minorities are disproportionately affected by environmental catastrophes. We take a stand on policies like the Dakota Access Pipeline, and we look at the effect of pesticides on our bodies. Before studying ecofeminism, I did not understand how people could be impacted differently by the effects of climate change. But that's exactly why we need ecofeminism, to teach us about these topics that are typically unexplored, but whose implications hold dire consequences for communities all over the world. In some cultures, women are so conditioned to stay in the house and depend on their husbands that in the wake of a natural disaster, rather than escaping, they will wait home for their husbands until it's too late. In areas that are surrounded by water, like the Pacific Islands for instance, rising tide lines will destroy the homes of these communities before anyone else's. The wealthy will be able to escape, ship out their belongings, and start a new life somewhere else. The less fortunate will have a much harder time. Additionally, our food choices impact our health and our environment, based on if we buy local, organic, or prepackaged foods. While middle and upper class Americans can probably afford to go to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's to pay the extra money for organic fruit or plant-based meat substitutes, those who financially struggle are unlikely to have the means to be able to make the same choices, especially when foods like a Big Mac cost about $1. Ecofeminism helps us scientifically examine not only how our identities and privilege intersect with the way climate change impacts us, but also how our systems are ultimately unsustainable and self-defeating. All the standards of how we live intertwine and impact one another, creating one big mess of environmental and social injustice. On the other end of the spectrum, the spiritual side of ecofeminism is where we look up to ecofeminist scholars like Sister Miriam McGillis, who teaches us to regard the earth as a holy being. And we find ways to connect ourselves as individuals to the nature that surrounds us. These things may seem incredibly different from one another, but really they go hand in hand. By finding our own connection to the earth, we motivate ourselves to take action for its sustainability. And by learning more about what we need to do to take care of the earth we call home, we can find a deeper connection to it. Starhawk provides eco-spiritual philosophies and observation and grounding exercises that help us to find ourselves in our environment. These exercises stress introspection, analyzing our home on Earth and our origins in nature, and embracing a relationship with the Earth Goddess. Starhawk and many other ecofeminists and eco-spiritualists find empowerment in connecting their femininity to nature, while others criticize this connection as essentialist and want their connection to the Earth to be separated from their femininity. Either way, ecofeminists and eco-spiritualists can generally agree that Earth is the most important thing we have. Without a planet to call home, we have nothing else. The earth provides for us, and in turn, we have to protect it. For some, the desire to protect our earth can stem from feeling a spiritual connection to it. For others, a spiritual connection can be felt to the earth when we take action to care for it. Essentially, ecofeminism teaches us to deconstruct our reality, understand what makes our earth and our society the way it is, and what needs to happen to make our reality fair and more sustainable. And to do this, we set environment at the center of our studies. But ecofeminism does not end when we're done studying. Just knowing and feeling the earth isn't enough. We have to take action and stand for our beliefs. This can be something small like building a vertical garden, recycling a coffee cup, or remembering to turn the lights off when you leave a room. Or bigger things like composting, calling your senators about environmental and social policies that you care about, voting in local and national elections, donating, volunteering, or planting trees. Whether you go as small as starting a garden or as big as entering the environmental studies field, what matters is that you do something. On the TCNJ campus, we value taking actions to make our earth and our community better and greener. 93.5% of our student body is concerned about climate change. Many students on campus have taken action toward recycling, educating, and even planting. TCNJ must embrace ecofeminism as an inspiration to put greater care and effort into keeping our campus community green and sustainable. We need to acknowledge how our existence affects the surrounding community. We need to learn to properly make use of the school's recycling systems and hold the school accountable when we don't believe it's doing its job, as many students seem not to. As college students, we are in a position of privilege. We are receiving an education, and we generally have the means to create change. As members of this privileged group, we need to take accountability for our actions and how they affect not only ourselves but our future generations. An ancient Greek proverb states, "Society grows when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in." This proverb reflects how we must look past the now and our instant gratification to create a society and a climate that's sustainable for our future. Whether we start with ourselves, our campus, our country, or the world, we can and must make the change we wish to see.